Hello. Hi, everybody. We're in the pipe. 5x5. Another Friday night live stream. I missed a few weeks, but we're back. We're back. I've got the YouTube Studio dashboard up on my second monitor. I'm looking at it really clearly right now. This was an unplanned stream. It you know, I didn't advertise it or preview it at all. No time for anybody to warm up or wait. And so I am waiting to see who is first. There is absolutely 0 people watching right now. And so I want to see who's first. And if you're first, let me know in the chat. And actually I need to pop up the chat, don't I? All right, somebody's here. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. I would say that this is one of those streams that sort of shows that on some level, I do not do the YouTube thing to grow my channel. I don't do it to make money, although the money is nice. I really just do it because it's fun and it's a creative endeavor. It's a way to talk about the game. It's a way to, you know, just like interact with the community and feel a little bit less alone in the world. I really do it for those reasons because I really have no business streaming right now. I have had like a really busy week of work. A lot of drama with work, a lot of like big decisions that I have to make as the company owner. And, you know, it's going to be a short stream for sure. Definitely going to be a short stream. But I have a lot of armaments to open up. Like, I have a lot of armaments. And I'm pretty close on the pity timer for Arch Formation. And so I'm going to push the pity countdown on this stream tonight. And that is basically why I'm live streaming. Is because I've been sitting on these armaments for a couple weeks. I always just save them to open them on a live stream. And I just want to open these things and see if I can get the pity timer down to 1 and get a rare in the slot that I want, etc., etc. And you know, it's almost just a coincidence, quite frankly, that that 1960 and 1093 are going to absolute war right now. In one of the, honestly, this has been a great war. It's kind of a short war. It feels like a bit of a short war, but it has been a great war. Still not a lot of viewers. Hopefully more people show up. Let me throw my alt account on here. I imagine there are a bunch of other people live streaming. But yeah, basically I just want to open armaments, and so it's going to be a pretty quick stream. But as we sort of warm up here, let's go ahead and check out what's happening in this war here. I watched the pass opening, but I have not watched too much since then. I basically I started watching for like I took like a quick break from work and watched Redline stream, and like the first thing I heard him say was that he works 3 days a week, and it was just sort of like wild to hear that because I'm over here working like 7 days a week, like my whole friggin' life. And there's other people who made like better career choices, who could work 3 days a week and potentially make more money than I do. And it's just kind of like irritating, quite frankly. Because yeah, I worked all week, and I'm gonna work after this stream, and I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and work, and then I'm gonna get up on Sunday and live stream Osiris League. Then I'm gonna do some work. Then we're gonna play our own Ark of Osiris match, and then I'm just gonna work the rest of Sunday. So I have no idea what's... I have a sense of what's happening in this KvK, but I haven't, like, actually looked, right? So let's go ahead and look at it from 960's point of view. It feels like 960's been winning. They've just been the stronger team in the open field, and they've been able to cover more fronts than 93. And of course, it's not 960. I need to start calling them 89 GT. 89 GT is the accurate name for this coalition of two of the absolute strongest camps in the game. So Arvix has Arvix is an R4 in 960. That's pretty cool. Let's see who the R5s are or R4s are in 489. A couple of 960 players, Ren and Alano's alt. I do think that people can, you know, if people wanted to, they could get like a really good sense for what the 960 and 489 like leadership structures are, like who does what during war, because there's a ton of people who are live streaming this war from 960 and 489's perspective. So like if you really wanted to pay attention and watch live streams of this war for many hours, you could see who's setting markers. You could see who's doing the rallies. And you could get I think you could get like a good feel for like some amount of the leadership that's happening with 89 GT. You would not get a feel for the voice chat, right? You would not get a voice chat sense of who's talking on VC and what the vibes are there. And I think certainly the main voices on VC are more so the leaders than the people setting markers. But I do think, like, you know, there's like a lot of footage of this war, and so like I think if anybody like really wanted to pay attention, they could, you know, like learn quite a bit about both of these kingdoms. It looks like this stream has like major issues. I don't know why. Well, why does this stream... Why is the stream health not great? Anyway, it seems alright. Stream status seems alright. We just have nobody watching. It is what it is. Let me share this link out, maybe get some people on here. I know some of you will watch this later, and I very much appreciate that, of course. And, you know, hopefully we'll get some people in here. But yeah, I mean, it looks like, so let's see, what is actually happening here? Okay, so they have not lost the pass yet. 93 has not lost the pass yet, which is interesting. It's interesting that 960 has not taken this pass. And they're not connected here. But clearly, 1093 is having trouble holding onto territory. And it looks like, you know, this happened pretty early on in the day, is that 188 did come up here to try to help 1093. They're sort of like combining forces, I guess you could say. And let's actually switch to 93T's perspective here and see where the 188 ball is. Maybe over here? Or is this water? This is water. So, alright, let's think about, how do I want to describe this war? Or how do I describe this day? I think basically what has happened is that, you know, 93 was able to really just chill at their forts, and these forts are like, this was an impossible fort to burn, really. I mean, it was just completely surrounded by cities. They could have put more troops in these flags. You know, this was a great situation for 93 here, where, like, they didn't even have to win the open field, and they could just play defense, and they could achieve all of their objectives. And it just feels like, you know, ultimately, 89 GT is the stronger team in the open field. And that open field advantage is just, like, much easier to manifest in Kingsland than it is, you know, somewhere against a bunch of forts, right? I mean, that's the power of the fort wall meta, is that you can get stuff done while not controlling the field. And I actually think that in the KvK that we were in against 2268, if the Kingsland had been small like this, I actually think that 2268 probably would have done to us exactly what 960 is doing now, which is just blitz the enemy for like 24 hours straight, have incredible open field presence, burn their flags, take away their territory, and end the KvK very quickly. Seba, welcome to the stream. Congratulations on being first. So it looks like advertising this stream in our Alliance chat definitely brought some viewers in. So let me go ahead and advertise it in the official ROK YouTube as well. Let's do all the advertising we can do here. I appreciate everyone who views live, everyone who throws a like on the stream, and I appreciate the people who watch later on as well. But yeah, I mean, 1188 came up here. I thought it would make a huge difference, but it didn't. And the 188 presence here, down over here, like, I don't know, it hasn't... They kind of like retreated pretty quick and went to focus on their own part of the map. And I almost wonder if 1093 should take some of this 188 territory. I mean, if 188's not going to use it, maybe they should give it to 93T. And, you know, people are now gathering these tiles. It's kind of funny how long it took people to gather tiles in this zone. I guess because the gatherers were just getting pressured all the time. I'm surprised they're not finishing these tiles and letting people teleport here. I don't know. I mean, my sense of this is that it's been an extremely well-played KvK. They've basically fought, like, they've basically have had huge open field battles for roughly 3 to 4 days straight now. And it's really hard to maintain that. It's really hard to just fight nonstop in the field and have, like, that endless presence, that endless, you know, 40, 50 people on voice chat, 40, 50 people willing to throw their marches into battle, fill up their hospitals, empty their hospitals, burn through those resources. Like, it takes just a massive effort to keep this level of open field fighting going. And as much as this Kingsland seems to be somewhat, like, quick, I think it has nevertheless been, like, a great war where the two sides were equal enough that they have had these, like, endless open field fights, right? And I almost think, well, I think a couple things happened. I think that, you know, 89 GT has, like, a natural advantage in Kingsland compared to against a fort wall. Their open field and their whales are just more impactful in a Kingsland scenario where, like, you can just swarm a flag. You know, like people like Arvix and Osno, they can't really swarm forts. Like, you can, but it's not that smart to do so. But, like, I saw Osno, like, Osno swarmed, like, a super important flag earlier today. 188's first flag that they were trying to establish to connect to 960. Like, Osno was one of the players who swarmed that flag down. And it was just like, you know, it was just like super important to do that, right? It was like the perfect, his marches were at the perfect place at that time to have like the most impact on the war. And so I just think like the 960 whales are just, they can just do so much in Kingsland. They can do so friggin' much in Kingsland. And then I think the other thing that has happened really is that, whereas in the previous zone, 188 and their allies were the dominant force, it feels like in Kingsland, it is at least just as even. And if anything, the 1846 side actually has the advantage. I mean, they are free burning. They are free burning 188 right now. Like 188 is, boy, where is 188? Like, where is 188? Where is 188 on this map right now? You know? Where is 188 on this map? So this is the 188 camp right here. You can see that Wib just has this flag completely surrounded. Several layers deep. Several layers deep into the 1888 flag line. They're just walking through. They're walking through 188 territory here. And, you know, like I said, I did not, I have not been watching this war for the last, like 7 or 8 hours. It's been about 7 or 8 hours since I really looked in on this war. And the difference, I mean, the thing that to me that is actually shocking is the disappearance of 188. Like, I mean, I hate to be like that blatant about it, but like, you know, they're just getting, I mean, there's just not a ball. There's like, I don't see the 188 ball. You know, we saw a huge 93 ball. 93 is losing, 93 is burning, but there's a huge ball. Where is the 188 ball? I mean, is this their ball? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is this their ball? Guys, let me know how the stream is, if the volume is good and all that stuff. I mean, it looks pretty good. It looks like the volume's pretty good. Osama, it definitely is the 188 downtime, but I mean, it's literally Friday night in Korea. Like, it's the first day of Kingsland in like a huge war. Like, I mean, it does feel like 188 went to bed, but I mean, how do you go to bed in a war like this? I mean, listen, I'm saying that I have not watched this war closely. I have not live streamed it. Any thoughts that you want to see of me about this war, you'll have to look at Plato's live chat, because I have talked in Plato's live chat a bit about the war as it goes on. But what I'm saying as like a non-expert on this war is that it kind of feels like it's over. Like this war sort of feels over right now. Now that being said, I did go to bed on the first night of our recent Kingsland thinking that we had lost. I went to bed thinking that we had already lost the KvK. I slept for the full 8 hours because I thought we had lost. And I woke up the next day and we had like turned the tables. We had fought back into the zone, and it suddenly looked like we had at least a 50% chance to win. So things do change. Things do change, but if anything, we're going into, you know, 1093 downtime at a certain point. and it's going to be like 89 GT uptime. So it's hard to see how this thing turns around. And it looks like all this red territory. Kudos to both teams for making this very easy to spectate, because one side is in red and the other side is in this multicolored tapestry over here on the left. But it looks like the red team is winning. Seba says, yeah, the volume is perfect. Okay, good to hear. Asama says, the enemy has been overwhelming for 188. They haven't been able to do much opposition. Asama mentions that Chisgull and company left 68. We are going to talk about that in the stream. Chaos Rob says 1093 people need to zero themselves. I think this scenario is fake, so they cannot win. You know, I did see a couple of players from 93 doing some very questionable open field stuff earlier. I'll maybe show some footage of that later. I actually think 93's played very well. I think that 93 did a really good build plan in this zone. You know, like, they use the mountains here great to, like, just block. Like, they basically reduced the places where they had to defend. I mean, that's the difference in these zones, right? Like, in this zone here, 93T had to defend, like, 2 spots, basically. You know, they had to defend, like, you know, this fort here. They had to defend this fort here, and these flags here. I mean, I think this flag existed the whole time. It never burned down. And they had to defend this 93L fort. But all these other spots were blocked by the natural territory of the map. And so, and plus, you know, well-placed alliance nodes. So they just, like, drastically reduced the amount of places they had to defend. Whereas here in Kingsland, they have to defend everything. And that's just a huge difference. Osama says, so true, I was shocked they didn't give another chance to 68. Yeah, you know, this is going to be a quick stream, and so I'm going to be, like, really smart about some stuff. And I do want to talk about 68 leaving, or I want to talk about SW leaving, and I want to talk about the very interesting video that Bus Driver did about that. But first, let's go ahead and open my armaments. I do also want to point out that if you are a... Okay, so in honor of these 3 gold chests that I'm about to open, I do want to announce that we do have a new emoji in the chat. We've got the whale emoji in the chat now for members. I think there are many situations where the whale emoji can be busted out by members of Officer Chat. I will also point out that I have, I upgraded my internet, right? I upgraded the internet. Hopefully that means that the stream is high quality. It's a little hard to tell, but yeah, hopefully the stream is a little bit higher quality because I did upgrade my internet just today. So do please throw a like on the stream. Give me some streamer luck, because I'm just going to go ahead and open these armaments at this point. Like I said, that's why I'm doing this stream. I should be working. I don't have time. I don't have time to do a live stream. But I'm doing one anyway. Because I want to open all these armaments. And I want to try and get this pity timer down to 1 or 2. And then do the dispatch quests. Yeah, I think Peacemaker's going to stay in 68. The last I looked yesterday, Peacemaker was in SP68, so I do think Peacemaker will stay. But, listen, it's time. It's time to open all these armaments. I'm going to do it pretty quickly. My goal really is to not get... I do not want to get a rare or special inscription. I do not want to get a rare or special inscription. So let me go ahead and open these real quick. I should probably check the blues, but I'm not going to check the blues. Or I should check the purples. I'll check the purples. I'll check the purples. Because even though I have a whale emoji in my chat, I am not actually a whale. But the goal here is to pull legendaries, but not get a special inscription. Because if we get no special inscription, we will in fact get the pity timer down to 1 today. Okay, so now we're going into the purples, arch formation. We need to keep track of the legendaries. We need to keep track of the legendaries. Because we definitely don't want to blow through them. We're at 30. Oh my gosh, 0 legendaries so far. 0 freaking legendaries so far. We've gotten 2 Brisk inscriptions. Brisk, for those who don't know, is increase the merge speed of wielder's siege units by 5%. It is literally the nut low armament in this game. Whereas haste increases, oh. The only thing that's nice about Brisk is that it's 5%. Like, 5% march speed is actually cool. So I guess if you get Brisk on, like, line formation, it's kind of nice. But yeah. Let's get some legendaries here. Okay, there's an inscription. Oh, that's a pretty good, that's some good rolls there. 2 good infantry rolls on this. 2 good infantry rolls here. This is the kind of thing you put a destructive on, actually. Maybe. Let's look at all these this time. We've got the inscription. Again, we don't want a special inscription. We don't want a special inscription. Patronage. Patronage is pretty good. Whenever the wielder's troop receives healing or a shield, it deals 2% extra damage for the next 3 seconds. There are many marches where patronage is quite good, so I will lock this as well. You never know if you want to reroll this someday. Now we're down to 28. We're down to 28 now. I'm just going to very quickly show that we're down to 28 on the pity timer here. We're down to 28. We want to get this down to 1. We want to get this down to 1. And we can absolutely do it right now in the next 5 minutes or so. So please, please throw a like on the stream. Give me that streamer luck. Let's get more people watching this. We are going for a big, big, big score if we can get the special inscription in the correct slot. All right, so we're down to 27 now. We're down to 27. Actually, we might not make it. Now that I look at this, we might not make it, actually. Holy shit, we might not make it. So pretty good archer stats here. I don't even know what formation this is, but pretty good archer stats. I guess I'll lock it. I guess. Okay, we might not actually make it, unfortunately. But we'll get close. Alright, another special inscription in the emblem slot. Pretty good slot for an inscription. Let's see what we do. Let's see what we get. Siege stats, triple siege stats on this one. Nothing on this one. And now here is the inscription. Smite. Okay. That's pretty good. Smite on arch formation. That's quite good. 2% normal damage of all types for Smite. That's a good inscription. That's a good inscription right there. 2% normal damage. I like it. So now we're down to like 24, I think. Let's check the timer. Let's check the pity timer here. Yeah, we're down to 24 now. We're getting there. We are getting there. All right. Another 10 purples here. Okay, another 4. So we're getting very close. We're getting very, very close now. All right. Another inscription. Another inscription here. We don't want it to be... We don't want it to be special. We don't want it to be special. Okay, so this is pretty good. This horn is good right here. 1.3% all damage is great, plus 3.3% defense. This is very good armament right here. I don't know if I'll ever be able to apply an inscription to it, but you save it in case you can. And now here we go. Here's the inscription. It's on the horn slot. I wouldn't mind a special inscription here, actually. Here I don't mind a special inscription. Oh, there it is! Okay. There's the legendary. We wanted to get it in this slot. This is the slot that we were trying to get the special inscription. So this is good. I'll take this. I will take this. I will take this. Okay? It's not the legendary. It's not the legendary version, but even keeled, the wielder's troop gains a 1.5% boost to normal damage dealt. And whenever their troop launches a basic attack, it has a 10% chance to reduce all incoming damage by 5%, but also deal 10% less skill damage for the next 3 seconds. Yeah, so this is just like a very good normal attack inscription here. This is the slot that I wanted. This is the exact slot that I wanted. It's not the legendary version, it's the rare version. But this is decent. I'm basically happy with this. When you consider all the possibilities, the fact that I had an only 1 in 4 chance of getting the slot that I wanted, it's very good that I got this slot. And we already have like a bit of Cav stats on here. I would re-roll this I will re-roll this entirely, but this is good. This is good. Okay, that's great. That's great. HTT Nation, welcome to the stream, my man. And welcome back to 1770, my friend. HTT is back in 1770. And I will talk about that a little bit more in a second, actually. HTT, you're giving me a nice segue into my next segment, but before we do that, let's open the rest of these armaments. Goodbye, welcome to the stream as well. I'll show you guys why that's significant, by the way. I'll show you guys why that's significant. So I mean, this is my garrison set, right? This is my garrison armament set. I'm good to go in the scroll slot. I've got a really good scroll. I've got destructive plus the triple stats. I'm good to go in this slot. Down here in emblem, I did pull something nice in emblem. I pulled forceful. I pulled the rare inscription for this slot. Again, this is just very solid, right? It's hard to get a good rare inscription for these lower 2 slots. So I was very happy to get forceful here. And I can just keep re-rolling this. I can keep resetting it, transmuting it, and just gradually build this armament into something better. Now in the flag spot, I have Desperado. Desperado is really like basically the best. It is the best like non-rare inscription for a garrison. It's 2% less damage when under 50% of units, and a garrison captain is almost always under 50%. So you almost always are taking 2% less damage. And taking less damage is also like a really good thing on a garrison. And down the road, way down the road, I can replace this with the I can go into the inscription shop and I can buy invincible, right? I can buy invincible and put invincible in this slot, right? So like basically I have a plan. I had a plan for all 3 of these slots. The one slot that I did not have a plan for and have like a bad armament for is the horn slot. Because I used to think that Spirited, which the wielder's troop deals 5% extra damage when it has over 70% rage, I thought that this 5% extra damage applied to the primary commander's active skill, but actually it does not. Essentially, once the skill is cast, or once you like hit 100% rage, your rage bar immediately goes down to 0, and then in the next turn, you actually cast the active skill. So Spirited does not apply to the active skill, and therefore Spirited is like actually not a very good armament. So now I have a replacement. You know, now I have an actual bona fide replacement for this very mediocre horn in the form of Even Keeled. And, you know, it's not the best, but it's good. It's good, right? I'm now on a path to where I will have a rare or better inscription in all 4 of these slots, and, you know, that's really all you can ask for. All right, so at this point, here's the thing, right? I'm pretty close to the pity timer on Wedge as well. I'm close to the pity timer on Wedge as well. And I do want to improve my Wedge armaments. So I'm actually going to open Wedge on the rest of these. I'm going to open the rest of these armaments right now, and I'm going to open Wedge for all of them. And then we'll talk about HDT being back and sort of segue that into Bus Driver's video about SW leaving. All right, so no legendaries there. Let's open up these 3 randoms. Very pleased to see that we have more likes than viewers. I appreciate that support. That's always very good. And, yeah, let's see. Are any of these any good? No. Basically, no. Alright, so let's open the legendaries now. And let's see what we can get as far as the wedge formation goes. No inscriptions. Bummer. Goodbye says, what are your thoughts on Crazed and Focus Fire? I recently got them both. Thinking about rolling them for calves. Video games, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here. 3.5% infantry attack. I am going to lock this. I need to remember that for Wedge, my standards are lower. My standards for Wedge are definitely lower. I mean, this one's not even that bad. Like, I probably won't keep that one, but... Yeah, video games, hope you're doing well. We are just opening the very last of our armaments here. Pretty good night. I'm happy with my pulls tonight, actually. But let's get an inscription. Let's get an inscription on Wedge here. Let's get an inscription on Wedge. None. Huh. All right. Well, there you go. Yep, nothing for Wedge here. Nothing for Wedge. All right. So that's it for the armaments. Let me show you again where my pity timer is now for Wedge. Yeah, the pity timer for Wedge is down to 25 now, so in a couple of weeks I will be able to trigger this pity timer also. But yeah, so yeah, HDT is back in the kingdom. HDT, of course, is a mod of the... Oh, wait, I was going to look at Crazed and Focus Fire. Yeah, let me check that out. Crazed and Focus Fire. Those sound like Wedge, right? Those sound like Wedge armaments. Oh, so here's Focus Fire. Okay, so an emblem, rare inscription in the emblem slot. 4% skill damage. Yeah, Focus Fire looks great. Goodbye. I mean, Focus Fire looks like a really, really good one. I actually really like this slot, the emblems slot. Like, it's just, like, so clean. Like, this is, like, one of the cleanest inscriptions, right? 10% skill damage, 4% skill damage. It's just, like, so simple. It's so friggin' simple to calculate the value of it, right? And then Crazed. Crazed, 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 crazed. Oh, crazed. Okay, here we go. Whenever the weedless troop deals direct damage, it gains 35 rage. I have to be honest. I don't think crazed is very good. This doesn't seem very good. I mean, it's a decent amount of rage. Like, it's an okay amount of rage. But I mean, just compared to Hunter, it's like just not good at all. Hunter is just so strong, and it's not that hard to get. And so I wouldn't say that crazed is all that good. I mean, I'd say it's almost probably one of the weakest of the rare inscriptions. But I do think Focus Fire is very good. Focus Fire looks great. Video game says I got a double inscription, 3% plus triple for infantry when I opened a single armament chest. Congrats, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, that's insane. It's actually been like a really long time since I got a double inscription. If anybody's been around for a long time, they'll remember that I had a streak where I was getting a double inscription on like every single live stream. I think in like a month period, I got like 3 double inscriptions and only streamed like 4 times. So that was pretty great. But yeah, you know, HDT is back in the kingdom. He has a different name. I believe he's going by Gray right now. I believe he is playing as Gray these days. Although I can't find him at the moment. Let's see. Here's Gray. Yeah, so Gray is back in the kingdom. We're very happy to have him back. Gray, of course, is the player. HDT, longtime mod of my channel, is, of course, the player who was operating the Ryu account when he was talking trash in LKC, and you know, he was trolling 2268. 2268 was trolling him back. HDT's like a, you know, HDT's not an old dude, right? I think HDT's probably in high school, quite frankly. And so he was trolling 2268, and he apparently got under their skin because he agreed to do a duel with one of the players in 2268. And as he was dueling, 2268 decided to swarm his city, basically. Let me find it. I'm gonna find the video. Why can I not find the video of? I'm trying to find Bus Driver's video of this. Oh, here we go. Yep, here we go. All right. Yeah, so first and foremost, I want to say the Bus Driver is like a great content creator. He's probably maybe like my favorite content creator right now. But I will say that, you know, this is what Bus Driver said at the time. I said it was toxic on both sides. Luckily, Brian can make a video about that for you guys. So I didn't make a video, but, you know, I essentially do things on my own sweet time. But, yeah, HDT, longtime mod in my channel, close friend of me, was in fact on this Ryu account when all this stuff was happening. Bus Driver essentially, Bus Driver must have spent a lot of time going through LKC to like find the absolute 6 most toxic lines that Ryu said. Because honestly, like most of the trash talk was about the actual KvK, and I don't think much of it got like quote unquote personal. Although I don't think like anyone took these lines as anything other than like blatant trolls that were not like really personal. But anyway, they were so it's basically HDT was gonna duel against Bacon, and as soon as the duel started, they went over to Ryu's city and swarmed him, which, you know, was kind of a shady thing to do. And, you know, I mean, you know, like Bus Driver said, I can make a video about it. You know, quite frankly, you know, HTT is literally one of like 3 mods in my channel. Really good kid. Ryu is one of my, like, Ryu at one point was like my best friend in this game. You know, he doesn't play as much as he used to. But, you know, he and I were like the 2 people who like sort of built the second ARC team here in 1770. So I didn't really want to touch the issue, quite frankly, because it was just kind of like, like, I don't know, it just was like lame all around, and so I just didn't want to touch the issue. But I do want to just say shout out to HTT for being back in the kingdom. And, you know, Bus Driver did another really good video recently where he talked about SW leaving 2268. And what he essentially said was that they had an argument during Kingsland about they had an argument in Kingsland about like what they should be doing on day 2 of this KvK, where essentially some of the SW players thought that they should come up top and stop us from like progressing back into the zone. Whereas the 2268 leadership, the SV68 leadership, wanted them to entirely focus on the bottom side. And apparently this argument just like went on and on and on, and that ended up being the reason for the split in the kingdom, is that like they just could not get past this strategic disagreement about where they should be putting their resources on day 2 and day 3 of Kingsland. And quite frankly, I documented this very well on my channel. You know, I was basically the person who opened up this front. We sort of like instigated this whole like conflict that led to SW leaving the kingdom, right? Because I basically woke up on day 2. We were making progress. I got out of bed because I saw Addy ping everyone in Discord and say, we need a garrison captain. And so I was like, well, I've been sleeping for 8 hours. I guess I should jump online and help since I can garrison. And what I saw when I got online was that we had made a bunch of progress. And there was just this like, this front in the north where like nothing was happening. And so I threw garrisons into a bunch of flags, built up those flags with my farm, and we started progressing in this area that you're watching now. And what happened about an hour later is that Cortex and Crix came up here and tried to defend a flag, right? Like, this was the disagreement. This was the disagreement they were having. You know, Bus Driver didn't say who from SV68 was, like, pushing for them to defend the north. But I think it's kind of obvious who from 68 was pushing that. Like, we don't really have to, you know, we don't really have to... Oh, look, I'm actually, here. I'm on my live stream here, but, let's see, where... I mean, we don't... He doesn't need to name who it was. It's obvious who it was, right? It's the people who were up here defending, right? It's the people who came up north to defend these flags are the people who were obviously had strong opinions about where 68 should be allocating their resources, right? And apparently they just could not get past this argument. Like, apparently this argument, like, just ballooned, you know, day after day. And, you know, I think probably the SW side, like, did not drop it. They did not drop the mistake they felt was being made. And this rift just, you know, expanded as the KvK got worse. And it ultimately led to SW leaving the kingdom. And I will say, for the record, that I actually think that like Cortex and Crix were right. I think they should have been defending the top. You know, I'm not going to get into like exactly why that's the case, but like, I do think they were right. I think they should have defended the top. I essentially think they could have done both, right? I think they could have pushed the bottom and defended the top, right? And, you know, it's really interesting. It was interesting to see. I think everything is known about like this game. I think this game is like solved in a lot of ways. But I also think that maybe people like prioritize different things. And I just think that like when you look at this situation, you know, and so by the way, this was like days later, right? They did not defend the North. Like they did not defend the North. They let us progress in the North. And then we just advanced entirely across the map, right? So I think that SV68 was correct about the strategy, but I actually think that they were wrong about not dropping the subject, right? I think they were wrong to let this cause a rift that that led to SW leaving the kingdom, right? Like, I don't think that they... I mean, I just think that 2068 had, like, a lot of very good things going for it. I think they played very well against us. I think they were a very effective team that is capable... that would have been capable of beating some very good Imperium kingdoms. And I do think it's a mistake to just, like, continuous... Like, if SV68, even if they were right, downgraded the vibes of that voice chat so much that, like, you know, bus driver like went to bed early on night 3 because the vibes were so bad. Other players went to bed early because the vibes were so bad. And then the next morning, the leadership was so burnt out on both the war plus the drama that the leadership essentially like surrendered really early. They surrendered at like the start. They surrendered at the start of like the Memorial Day weekend. It was like a 4-day weekend that we could have been fighting in Kingsland the entire time. The trajectory of that war was that it was going to last for several more days, and both sides were going to zero themselves. But because the drama on the 2268 side got so toxic, they decided to pull the plug early. And it's like one of those situations. There's a quote in crypto, I think, where it's like, do you want to be right or do you want to make money, right? And so like sometimes in crypto, the smart thing to do is to make like really stupid investments and invest in like ridiculous meme coins like Doge or Pepe or MOG or whatever it may be. You know, you invest in these stupid meme coins at the right time because you know they're going to go up. And yeah, you're being quote unquote stupid. You're investing in things that make no sense. But again, do you want to be right or do you want to make money? And I think that maybe what happened is that SW wanted to be right instead of making money. And in this case, making money would have been either winning the war or at the very least staying together as a kingdom. And I will say this, there's a very interesting... So basically, like, I inadvertently documented this whole drama, like, pretty freaking well. Because a day or two after the war ended, I was casting Osiris League with Chisgul, and we ended up talking about leadership at the end of one of the matches. And I think, even at the time, I was like, I think Chisgul's talking about, like, what just happened. I think he's like, I think this stuff is fresh on his mind, and he's talking about, like, the leadership that he's, you know, been experiencing, you know, just days before. And so let me go ahead and play some of the conversation that I had with Chisgul during Osiris League. One second, let me cue this up here. Yes, I'm just this is like midway through the conversation, and I'm just going to play this for a minute. If you guys can't hear this, let me know in chat, please.
Do these like hell weeks, and it's designed to like bring out like your sort of true inner self and reveal it or whatever. And like, you know, KvK is actually end up doing something very shockingly similar. I think it is very revealing of the caliber of the leaders and the way they operate. When you haven't slept and you're pushed to the brink and you're decision fatigued, like the way they then behave is like sort of the, I don't know. It's like the mark of like, how are they really as a leader? Who are they really behind it all?
Yeah,
you can't hide from it.
It's everybody though. It's everybody. It's not just the leader though, right? Because like the people, you know, some people might be making the decisions in war, but other people are keeping the vibes up or down as well, right?
They are.
And you know, like when you get second guessed in war, right? When you're making decisions, tough decisions in war, and you get second guessed like in real time by people, it's rough, man. It really it's counterproductive, honestly, right? Whereas if people are supportive and like giving good information and like sharing their thoughts, that's super helpful, right? And that, you know, that I think plays as much of a role as like what the leader is or is not doing, because a leader gets affected by the people around them.
That's true, but the way the leader he sort of facilitates the group determines the impact of all that commentary and behavior, or even whether or not it happens at all, right? Like, yes, it is natural for people to start to chime in when they feel there's not direction. Like, the second guessing is often a symptom of failed explanation rather than, I don't know, it could be a reflection of the players themselves being in the wrong role, but whatever. The match is almost over. A fun musing on kingdoms here as,
Yeah, so really interesting stuff there, I think. You know, when that happened, I honestly like didn't I had no idea that there were drama, right? I had no idea. Obviously I knew they had surrendered early, but like what I was saying there was from my perspective, right? Like I was speaking entirely about my perspective and my experiences, like recent experiences, because you know, on like night 3 of that war, like, or wait, was it night 3? No, night 2. On night 2 of that war, you know, people were really second guessing me on voice chat. And when the zone opened, when the Kingsland opened, there were a couple people who were really second guessing me tough and just like giving me a hard time for like a couple of missed opportunities that we had. And it like really bummed me out, and it really like sapped my confidence and stuff like that. And there was also like a previous KvK where like a couple people were like really second guessing me. And so I was just speaking from my experience. Like that was entirely about me. But I think I did kind of like, I think Chisgold made very good points there. And I think I gave like the other side of the story. I made very good points also. And I think oftentimes the truth is somewhere in the middle. And, you know, I think with the whole SW departure, like, as I said, I do think that SW was right about the strategy. But, you know, at a certain point, once the decision gets made, like, you just have to live with it. You know what I mean? And obviously they could have changed course. Like, obviously, like, at the moment when, like, Crix and Cortex, like, teleported up, at that moment, they were probably correct to keep hammering the point that, like, hey, the enemy is advancing. It's not going to take all that much to defend against them, to slow them down. Let's allocate enough to slow them down. Like, at that point, sure, like, you know, keep making your point, you know, keep trying to move things in the direction you want. But after that point, once the deal is done, I mean, you know, it's tough, man. But I think you have to drop it. It's tough to drop it. It's tough to drop it when you see your team doing the wrong thing. But I do think it's a certain point you have to drop it just for the just for the mental health of your team, right? Because the war was not over at that point. And, you know, I just don't think this group had to break up. Like, I just don't think 2268 had to break up. In prison at 6:30, 5:32. Let's see. 6:30, 5:34. Let's take a look. Yeah, it looks like 60 GT is walking all over people. Yeah, so 188 looks like they got disconnected here a little bit, or ineffective flag here. And yeah, let's just watch this while we we continue to muse a little bit about leadership and things like that. Actually, let me catch up on chat here. Knight says he's definitely taking shots to someone there. Yeah. When we were on the air and I was listening to it, I was like, he's definitely talking about someone. He's talking about something that's very, very fresh in his head for sure. And you know, the point that Chisgall made at the very end of that was that he said, like, maybe people are in a position that they shouldn't be in. And I think that's like a really good point as well. And it's certainly a good point to explore in light of the KvK that we're watching now, where I think we are seeing like very, very good leadership from, you know, 1093, 960, 2489, and I almost want to say Wib as well. I actually think 1846 is at this point doing enough in Kingsland that we can say that 1846's leadership is also quite good. And you know, like the thing that I've been thinking about recently, you know, I essentially have like entire conversations in my head, right? Like I have complete two-sided conversations in my head, right? So like, because I was thinking about like, what if I were to ask Chisgall like what like his best leadership situation was, like when in this game, what was like the best leadership team that he was either a part of or that he like played with? Because I wasn't sure. I'm not sure like what he would answer. And but what I would answer for Chisgall is I would say that the best leadership team Chisgall was a part of was the team in 1075, that original SW team where Negan was the king, where you know, people like Ruz was in the kingdom, Groggy was in the kingdom. There was this guy named Sterling. I believe Abe was a bigger part of leadership at that point. Here, by the way, comes the rally on this city. No longer imprisoned, but still taking this rally with the Gorgo garrison. Let's check his deads. Let's see if he's going to take any deads here. 37276. You know, but I just think, and I don't know anything about Chisgall's situation other than the fact that I've just watched his stream for years, right? But, you know, back in 1075, like, Chisgall was part of leadership. Chisgall would, like, be, like, sort of like the open field dude who was, like, making decisions about where the open field should go. And, you know, I just think they had, like, a very good situation in 1075. And I would guess that maybe Chisgall would say that like Negan-led leadership team was the best he's been a part of. Which got me thinking about one of the big KvKs that they lost, where they lost to like 1077, which was led in part by Bo Tiger, one of my best friends in the game back in the day. And Bo Tiger was like the architect of this, like, you know, garrison-based defense against 1075 that like stymied 1075 and ended up allowing Fire Nation to win like a really good KvK. And at the time, me and Bo talked about that war for like a very long time. And we were on voice chat one day talking about it, and we were just like marveling at like how little money Bo had spent on the game, and the fact that he was able to like have such a massive impact on the game, even though he spent so little money. And we were talking about some of the like players that we had played with in the early days and how much money those players had spent. And, you know, like, man, there were people who played this game in the early days who spent like high 5 figures, low 6 figures, who at a certain point couldn't really do that much more than like a low spender like Bo. Because A, garrisons were very dominant. B, there were no armaments. C, there were no crystal tech. D, there was no like, you couldn't like expertise your equipment even, right? So whales like really didn't get much bang for their buck. But I think that like something that happened in like the first 3 years of this game was that like basically everything was like very whale led, right? Like almost all the big kingdoms were led by whales, right? Because when a kingdom opened, the whale alliance inevitably was the dominant alliance, and they and everyone just like gravitated towards the whales, right? And that just sort of like extrapolated over time, where like the dominant kingdoms in the game were led by whales. I mean, whether you want to talk about 1254 with Bunny, 1307 with Mad Phantom, 1875 had that guy like John Abu Hind. I mean, the list are like Death Squad's kingdom. I mean, the list just goes on and on of these like whale-led kingdoms. And that got me to thinking, because like I said, I have these entire conversations in my head, right? That got me to thinking about like, you know, I think we've moved on to a different era, basically. I don't think we're in like the whale-led kingdom meta anymore. I think the game has gotten complicated enough and skill-based enough and teamwork-oriented enough that it's really not about a whale leading the kingdom. Because at the end of the day, right, like, there are some like very important things that happen in like a very intense war. One of the things that happens is that you have to swap your garrison captain, right? Your flag is getting swarmed. The enemy is like massively surrounding the flag where it's hard to actually click on it. But the garrison captain is getting dropped to 0. And midway through that fight, you need to swap the garrison captain to a fresh captain. Now, ROK has made that a little bit easier recently, where like the best garrison captain like kind of goes to the top of the list. But a year ago or 6 months ago, you had to do basically 3 things. You had to be able to click on the garrison. You then had to scroll through and find the correct garrison captain. And then you had to actually be able to click on that garrison captain's portrait and select the option to make them captain. And all 3 of those things were very hard to do, but they're very important in war. And let's just take Bunny as an example, right? Because Bunny has been on some podcasts, and I think we have a pretty good sense of like Bunny's personality, right? I don't think Bunny was swapping garrison captains in the middle of a swarm. I don't think Bunny knows how to do that. I don't think Bunny cares to learn how to do that. And I don't think Bunny can really just be arsed to deal with that shit, right? But that's like a very important thing to do as a leader in this game, right? It's very important to know how to switch a garrison captain in the middle of a swarm. Another thing that's very, very important is to be like great at territory building. You know, like one of the most important things that we did in our last KvK is that our R5, Adinavo, he built a fort wall that had no breaches in it. It was like an 8 fort wall that extended quite a bit of across a very significant amount of territory, and there were no holes in that wall whatsoever. The enemy could not breach that wall. And that is the second impenetrable fort wall that Adinavo has built in the last year. And again, let's just think about Bunny. Let's think about Bunny. Bunny is a very smart dude. I don't think anyone can deny the fact that Bunny is an incredibly smart dude. And he's very charismatic, and he was a great leader in his own way. But Bunny is not going to be like building impenetrable fort walls. Like think about what you know about Bunny. He's not going to spend the time to build an impenetrable fort wall like Adinavo builds. And he's not going to take the time to like figure out how to like swap a garrison captain that's getting swarmed and under heavy pressure. And so I think that like the whales, like I just think like partly whales like Bunny moved on from the game because they had better things to do. But I also think that some of those whale leaders moved on because the game passed them by, right? They were not able to be online 20 hours a day. They were not able to build impenetrable territories. They were not able to swap garrison captains. And they were just not able to like get shit done in the way that a modern ROK leader gets shit done. And, you know, I think that's part, and, you know, like, I don't know about all these leaders. Like, Mad Phantom was obviously very dedicated to the game, but I don't know if, like, Mad Phantom was setting markers. I don't know if Mad Phantom was swapping garrisons. I don't know if he was planning out territory or doing diplomacy. But I just think at the end of the day, what has happened is that the game has become more competitive, and it is not enough to be a very smart whale that is leading a kingdom. Now you have to be just like a super smart, super dedicated person to lead a kingdom. And that sort of brings me back to 2268, which, you know, part of what I'm saying is that maybe whales are not on the level to lead the very best kingdoms in the game. But implicit in that is the idea that there are levels to this shit. And, you know, there are just leaders in this game who are not on the level to lead. You know, like, you have to make actual decisions. You have to make actual decisions. You have to make, like, really precise, detailed decisions during war. And in many cases, that decides the war. And it is entirely possible that the decision of 2268 to not defend the North against us was what determined that war. And, you know, that's not to say that, like, the leadership of 2268 is not very good. But it is to say that maybe they're not great, right? Like, maybe they're not a great leadership team. And, you know, that is like, that's just like an interesting situation to be in, where, like, if you have a great team, but you're just a very good leader, then is that going to create problems down the road? Or is that sustainable? Or what, you know? And I'm not trying to give them a hard time, because I'm not a great leader either. Like, I'm literally not a great leader, right? As I've said in the past, I would get destroyed as a leader of any of these top kingdoms. Like, I would get chewed up and spit out because I'm just not smart enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not dedicated enough. And I don't have the time to do it. But, I mean, what we're seeing here from 93 and 960 and 2489 is we are seeing peak leadership. We are seeing outstanding leadership. You know, they've done the details right? Like, I mean, okay, 93T, okay, they built like a great fort wall. Or they built a great fort wall in this zone to give themselves a chance to get into Kingsland. But you want to know what happened at the beginning of Kingsland? 89GT did something very, very important at the beginning of Kingsland. They sent a taxi rally over to this pass. Actually, I'm going to find this. Can I find this? I'll just describe it. 960 GT sent a taxi rally over to this pass right like a minute before the pass is opened. Those troops then attacked the marches that were going to swarm the pass. They swarmed the buffing marches and they swarmed the swarming marches. I think ultimately the key was to attack the swarming marches and just reduce the troop count of the swarming marches just a little tiny bit. And what happened when the pass is open is that 1093 had 3 Puo Nevskis swarming the pass. A couple of them were not at 100% health. On the other hand, 960 had 2 Huo Nevskis and a Boudica Hermit. And this allowed 960 to get through their pass maybe 20 to 30 seconds ahead of 1093. And that advantage, that 30-second advantage, led to them finishing their first flag 1 minute faster than 1093. And after they finished their first flag, they were able to place the second flag. There was like a huge key spot here, right around here, where basically whoever got their first flag down first was going to be able to build the second flag. And 960 got that flag down first. And that sort of territorial advantage just magnified as the zone continued. And they just took a lot more territory than 1093 right off the bat. So, 1093 is not the only leadership team in this KvK that knows how to dance. 960, to me, has shown a lot of game in the past few weeks. I think they've shown a lot of game. They figured out a really good tactic in Osiris League to use 12 skill points on the second mid fight against 489. They used like an ancient Chinese tactic of using this like gathering skill that when you return your gatherers, it triggers a boost to your skill points. And this 12 points of skill use allowed them to win the second mid fight, and that ended up being the difference in the match. And these details just make a huge difference. It's just there's just levels to this. There's just levels to leadership in this game. And I would say it's a pretty harsh game, and it's a pretty harsh reality when you realize that you're like not as good as other people, And I've had to realize that a few times. Like at a certain point, I realized that like Adinavo was like a better leader than me. And in one sense, it was a blow to my ego, but in the other sense, I was like, well, thank God we're on the same team, right? And it's like 960 lost like a lot of players. They lost their king. Like let's just think about it this way, right? Like 960 lost their friggin' king. Leopard was their king. But you sort of wonder, was Leopard actually the decision maker? Was Leopard the person calling the shots in war? Or was it people like Seawill and Kenny and Alano and YY and TC and others, I'm sure? Was it people like that who were making the decisions in war? Because to me, like 960 is doing really well for a team that lost like a ton of players. Like these guys lost like a lot of whales. They lost a lot of their talent base. But like, man, they're still winning Osiris League and they're still playing very well. And I just think it's once again a reminder of like how important leadership is in this game. And it really is, from what Bus Driver said, it was really a dispute between two groups of leaders that led to SW leaving that kingdom. And I think it's very unfortunate that happened, but I can certainly understand why it did. Because if you don't agree with what the leaders of your kingdom are doing, then it's sort of hard. I guess that it's hard to stay, right? I guess it's hard to stay. The only point I would make is that, like, you know, you just have to, like, I just think you have to, like, keep building, right? Like, it's kind of what I was saying to Chisgo, right? It's like, it's a bunch of people. It's a bunch of people having an impact. And, like, even if, like, people make a bad decision in, like, one particular war, like, can't you just, like, learn from those mistakes and, like, give them a chance to do better in the next war? Like, give them a chance to either listen to you more, give them a chance to let you take charge, or give them a chance to, like, maybe be more of a consensus-driven leader in the next war. I mean, it's really, really hard. It's really, really hard. Oppo, welcome to the stream. Nicholas, welcome to the stream. Gosu says, whales don't know how to play the game. A lot of spenders do not know how to play the game. It's astounding. Gosu has made some good videos where he essentially argues that, like, a ton of people still don't know how to play the game, and that there's, like, there's a lot of, like, green space where you know, people can actually just play better and teams can do things better. I think that's, like, sort of true and sort of not true. The game feels relatively solved to me. And I think it's more about, like, putting the right people in place to make those decisions, more so than people don't know how to play the game. Knight says they lost Fish too. That's a great point. They lost Fish as well. Like, they literally lost, like, their biggest leaders. Like, 960 lost their, like, most well-known, like, leadership types. And yet, we're seeing them make, like, as good, if not better, decisions today than they made with that previous leadership regime. Knight says, but I think it this way too. Leopard and Gov is in that KvK, but in spirit, Arvik bought both accounts, remember? Yeah. And the thing you always have to remember is that this is not this is far from just, like, a skill-based game. This is far from just a decision-making game. It's actually more, I guess really what I'm saying is that on the margins and in the periphery, the decisions matter a lot. But ultimately, this is a game about strength. This is a game about spending. And this is a game about building a very strong team. And the main variable in this war that we're watching right now is that 89 GT appears to be a significantly stronger team than the individual kingdom of 1093. And that's no surprise, because 960 and 2489 are arguably the number 2 and number 3 strongest kingdoms in the game. And it certainly would make sense that the number 2 and number 3 kingdoms in the game, when combined, would be able to beat the number 1 kingdom in the game. And I quite frankly think that it is, I think it is good for the game if 960 and 2489 win this KvK. I think it would be kind of weird if 1093 were able to beat both of these kingdoms. It would mean that 1093 is, like, way stronger than everybody else. And I think that would just sort of make the overall global meta, the overall global competitive scene of this game less interesting. Whereas now, I think this meta is very interesting. I think we have a very interesting meta at this point. Especially with the rumors that the domain system may be reduced to only 500 cities per domain. That will mean less farms for most kingdoms, and it will potentially mean less main accounts for 1093. And so there is an open question of, if domains are 500 cities, then who will beat who among the hierarchy of 1093, 1960, 2489, 2377, 2429, and various others who are rising and falling as time goes on. I actually think we have a lot of kingdoms that are in the conversation for being able to have an impact on the highest level of war in this game. Novo, shout out to 2790. Glad to have you here. Gosu says, I feel like certain matchups were designed to go in certain outcomes. For example, your last KvK, 2268 was designed to win, but they failed regardless. This KvK 1093 is designed to lose. I think it's debatable that 2268 was designed to win. I think that's genuinely debatable. But I think they were supposed to win. I think 2268 deserved to be the favorite in that KvK. And I think in this KvK, it probably is true that 1093 was designed to lose. Because from what I have seen, I think 1093 played very well. I don't know if their morale went down on a day like today or not. I'm really not sure. I don't know what the vibes were in the voice chat today. But certainly going into today, 1093 did everything they could to make this a great war. I will say, though, like, it seems like 188 kind of... And 188 obviously played very well in the previous zone. So it's hard to criticize 188 too much. Although it does feel like 188 like really underperformed in KL today, if I can be quite honest about it. But yeah, I do think 1093 was designed to lose this KvK. I do. I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, it's very complicated, right? Like, I love to talk about, like, skill. I love to talk about, like, leadership, as if, like, these things are, like... As if these things determine our fate, right? As if, like, who you are as a person, who you are as a player, who you are as a leader, and who you are as a team. As if this determines our fate in Rise of Kingdoms. I mean, that's just a bunch of bullshit, quite frankly. What determines our fate in this game is how much you spend, how much your teammates spend, and what matchups Lilith makes for KvK, right? Novo, thank you so much for the donation. Very much appreciate it. At this point, I need to see if Novo's in this KvK. I assume he is. He says he's watching from 2790. Oh no, he's in a different KvK. Okay, so Novo's in a different KvK, in a Tides of War. Very cool. Yeah, shout out to you, Nova. I really appreciate that. Really, really appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this game, like life, is a brutal dance. A brutal dance between agency and luck. And all we can really do is try our best most of the time. And when we're not trying our best, you know, try not to get too drunk, try not to get too high, try not to make any big mistakes, try not to burn any bridges or say anything too stupid, and then recover, rediscover your A game, and, you know, run it back again, you know, trying to do your best and just dealing with the complete unfairness, the complete randomness, and the complete chaos that we call existence. You know, that's really all you can do. And, you know, I've just enjoyed watching this war of, like, two very large groups who have a lot of agency in what they're doing, who I think are playing this game at, like, the highest level that probably anyone has played it. And so it looks like I need to lower the size of some of these donations, but I'll do that later. Yeah, I mean, these are groups that are just, like, playing this game at a level that I will never be able to play at. And it's just fun to watch, man. It's really fun to watch when you sort of, like, appreciate, like, how much it takes to get to this point. When you appreciate, like, what it really takes to, like, fight for 4 days straight in the open field. I mean, these guys have been going back and forth for 4 days straight. How do you get this many resources? How do you get this many speed ups? How do you sleep this little? And how do you have enough capable leaders to like keep the ball rolling, to keep this machine moving in this very effective way? I mean, it's honestly like pretty amazing. You know, it's just amazing. And you know, there are many spectacles in life, right? There are many incredible spectacles in life, right? I mean, you know, not to be political, but we're seeing like, you know, in American politics right now, we're just seeing like amazing things happen, like things that absolutely baffle them. Like they boggle the mind that we're at the point that we're at, right? Because like life is not a straight line, and the world is not some straight line where like you input A and get out B. You literally like input D and get out, go F yourself, right? Like it none of it makes any friggin' sense. And yet you have like tons of people who are like doing things at like a super high level, right? And occasionally those people just like outplay everybody and just like crush. And at other times they run into other people that are playing really good. Whether that's in a video game, whether that's at the club, whether that's you know, in some company that you're at, you sometimes run into people who are playing just as well as you are, and you have to either ally with them or you have to go through them. And those situations are very very interesting to observe, very intense to go through, and they are at times very consequential, right? I mean, I watched the most recent episode of House of the Dragon last night, and you know, there are people on House of the like, I have no idea what's going to happen on that show. I will say it's like great to like be completely unspoiled and watch shows like Game of Thrones. Like it's like being unspoiled is the way to watch those shows. Let me tell you something. But you know, there are people on that show who are like taking they are taking fate into their own hands. You know what I mean? Like they are doing things to change the course of their own life, right? And you know, to me there's just something very motivating about that, right? There's something very motivating about like how much you actually can do, right? As much as you're born into a situation that you're born into, as much as you are, you know, subject to forces far beyond your control, you still have just so much that you can control. You have so much you can impact. The difference between your A game and your C game is so massive. Imagine bringing your A game to the majority of days in your life. I can't even imagine it. I cannot even imagine it. But I have had a few of those days recently. And I think I'm having I think today's been an A day for me, actually. I think I brought my A game to today. I've been dead stone sober for like 3 straight weeks at this point. And, you know, it does cause me to ramble a little bit, but you know, I've been inspired, man. I've been inspired by this war that we're watching, and the absolute mass of the mass of humanity that we're seeing on this field day after day. It's been quite a sight to see, and I honestly think this has been one of, as much as it's going to be a pretty short war, as much as it's going to be a relatively short war, I think it's actually been one of the best wars that this game has seen. Novo says, what's your opinion on Eleanor trying to see if I should invest or not? You know, Novo, I'm still trying to figure that out. I think from the reports that I have seen that she's a bit better than any of us thought, right? I think, first of all, we've seen her a fair bit in this KvK, right? Like, these teams are definitely not only using Gorgo. We're seeing Eleanor garrisons from time to time. She's obviously being used a ton in Ark of Osiris. And she holds up to Swarm like, again, like she holds up to Swarm like slightly better than we thought, right? And so I do think Eleanor is good. I do think she's good. I have not built her yet. I still want to like, I'm like, you know, I'm 95% sure that I'm going to build her, but I'm just like still waiting. She's not OP. I don't think Eleanor is OP, but I think she does, you know, Novo, if you're asking, then that means you're a Cab Garrison, so you know that us Cab Garrisons have low expectations. You know, Cab Garrisons have never been great. They've at best been very good. And so I think Eleanor is just like in a long line of very good, not great Cab Garrisons. And at this point, we're used to it, man. We're just used to it. Popo says 1960 did something wrong, though. They should have let Greenwood in. Let Greenwood take 96p flags and help 1818, 1846. Yeah, and you know, I thought that Water Camp would have more of an impact as well. I mean, it's just really, it's really amazing that like... So you see the garrison got popped. Look, the garrison got popped right here. We were talking earlier about how important it is and how challenging it is to keep a garrison. Or maybe it didn't get popped. Maybe they just burned it. They might have just burned it. I don't know. Actually, yeah, it looks like it got popped. Yeah, it looks like it got popped. Look at this. The emojis are going. So as we talked about, there are levels to this shit. And details really do matter. And leadership is like a very big deal because that garrison got popped. A rally that went on for several minutes, a swarm that went on for several minutes, ended with the garrison being popping and the strongest team in the game, the greatest leadership team in the history of the game, being unable to replace the garrison in time. And this flag burnt at the behest of a Guan Yu garrison captain. Popo, if you have a screenshot of the report, please share it with me. Message me if you get it. Or you message me either in Discord or in game, and I'll show the report. Be great to see that report for sure. Nicholas Huerman says, "Never in my life have I imagined American politics right now amazing." Yeah, I mean, it's so funny, Nick. Like, you know, I talked about leadership for like literally like half an hour straight. I talked about leadership for half an hour straight, but when it came to talking about American politics, it was not even for a moment that I thought about it in terms of leadership. I thought about it in terms of chaos, right? Like, I didn't bring up American politics because I was talking about leadership. I brought it up because I was talking about chaos and ridiculousness. And I think that's very interesting. Like, it like never even occurred, like leadership didn't even occur to me in that context, right? Which is pretty wild. But it also goes back to like what Chisco was saying on that clip I played earlier, where he was like, the lessons you can learn about leadership, like people would be surprised at like what you can learn about leadership in a video game like ROK is like would be very surprising to outsiders. But I do think it's completely valid, right? I think it's just like it's a very real thing that's happening here, right? Like these two teams have gone through a very real experience. Not just the leaders, but all the players. They've all gone through a very real experience together where they're like, you know, they're like hundreds of people are putting their life on hold to play this game for 12 plus hours of the day. And not just play the game, but be like super focused and like really like pour into the details of things. Like, you know, you can't just like go into the open field and be like, throw your marches at the enemy, because all they're going to do is pull your ass in and wreck you, right? So like, they're not just playing 12 hours a day, but they're also like, you know, clicking back and forth and moving back and forth endlessly with like a really high degree of focus, right? And you're doing that with like hundreds of your friends and just having faith that like everyone else around you is going to come through and make your effort worth it. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. But let's take a look at that report. Let's take a look at that that swarm and rally report. Oh, so Redline was streaming it. Oh wow. Oh wow. So it didn't go for as long as we thought. We must have caught the vast majority of that. But the Tariq Pakal rally gets the job done. And then that swarm at the end really probably made this trade a lot worse. But I don't think this was all from the popped garrison. I don't think there's any way this was all from the popped garrison. I think they somehow were keeping this rally more full than the garrison, or there was something wrong with that garrison. That's a crazy trade. That's a crazy good trade for the offense. Like, I don't even know how this happens. A Tariq Pakal rally. A Tariq Pakal rally there. Wow. Wow. Big win. Big win for 1960 there. You know? In small ways, you're seeing the wheels perhaps come off 1093 here. It's really hard to keep the morale up. You know? You know, Chiskel talked about Hell Week, how like elite military units go through Hell Week in order to test themselves and improve. This is pretty much Hell Week for the vibes people in 1093, because how do you keep the vibes up at this point in the war when things are going real bad, when all your flags are burning? How do you keep the vibes up at this point? Oof. Headtons, welcome to the stream. Is 960 winning? Yes, I would say the 960 is winning. I would say that, yes. I would say that for sure. I mean, if I'm in charge of, if I'm responsible for the vibes in 93 at this point on voice chat, I think what I think the impression I tried to put out there is the fact that, listen, we were massive underdogs in this war. We have played very well, so let's continue to play well, right? You know, that's like the poker player in me, right? Like, don't be results oriented, be process oriented, right? And like, there's a process that 93 can either do well at or do badly at. And if they stick together and continue to play well and continue to like make good decisions, execute as best they can, like stay active, maintain good vibes, have fun, find successes where you can find successes, then when they look back on this war, they're going to be like, hey, we played well. Like, it was a very tough situation and we played well. So like, what the hell are we pissed about, right? We've got, I mean, these guys have like 6 stars already, right? They already have like 6 stars. I mean, you know, is it really such a big deal if they lose 1 KvK where they were like massive underdogs to win? Like, is it really such a big deal if they lose? No, it's not. It's not a big deal at all. If they play well, it's just all good, right? Now, if their vibes like completely fall apart and they're like being dicks to each other, then that's a whole different story. But if their vibes stay up and they play well, then it's like, who friggin' cares, man? Who cares if you lost? Like, sometimes you just lose, bro. Like, sometimes you just lose. Sometimes the enemy is just stronger than you, and there's nothing you can do to like change that reality. And you know, that's a complicated reality for some people to swallow, but it's A, accurate, and B, it shouldn't be that hard for people to swallow. I think it's, I mean, you know, process is what matters, man. Process is what matters. It's not results, man. Results are outside of your control. Process is completely in your control. And if your process is consistently good, then like eventually good things are going to happen to you. So I don't know. I don't think it's that complicated. I said it would be. I said it was hard to keep the vibes up if you're 93, but I don't think it's complicated. It's just like emotionally difficult. Evil Clown says only 93 could hold 89 GT. Yeah, they held them like very good, right? Like they actually won some open field fights, and like on like a fundamental level, they like their ball was able to like compete, you know, pretty well with the 89 GT ball. And that's like very impressive to me. Very, very impressive. I do think that I do think that like 93T might have like slightly run out of resources. Or I think they were getting nervous about resources in this KvK. This is from about 2 hours into the war. This was an incredibly important fight. This was a very, very important fight here, where essentially all of 93's flags were burning, except for the one right here. 93 was burning 89 GT's flag, and 188 was trying to connect territory. 960 had already swarmed down the first flag that 188 built, and as soon as that flag was swarmed down, 93 brought their entire ball. They brought their entire ball to this point. And in response, 89 GT brought most of their ball to, you know, defend and contest. And they both gathered up, and then 89 GT actually engaged on 1093, which was a very confident thing for 89 GT to do, because quite frankly, every second that passed was a win for 89 GT, even if both armies just simply stood there and waved at each other, because 89 GT was burning a ton of 1093 flags. But they charged into 1093 anyway, and this was the open field fight that ensued. At the beginning, 1093 was in fact winning this fight. They were winning at the beginning for sure. And, you know, I'll go through this for a while. I kind of want to... what I'm going to show you as this fight goes on is I'm going to show you some questionable play from a few of the fighters on 1093. A few of their fighters were actually KP chasing. And, I mean, even if you look at this ball right now, even if you look at the 1093 ball right now, I mean, there's a pretty substantial, like, back area here, right? There's a pretty substantial group who's, like, just sitting in the back, not pushing forward. And the sense I get is that after 3 days of endless open field fighting in Zone 6, I do think some players in this war were starting to get nervous about how many speed ups and how many resources they had left. I mean, like, look at how, like, kind of, like, shallow the 89 GT backline is here, right? Like, all of 89 GT is in the front. Whereas, like, I would say a substantial portion of 1093's ball is pretty far in the back. Just picking off, like, you know, the people who get pulled out of position. Popo says check DM now. Oh, is it in... Check DM now. Oh, right. I'm not watching the game. Sorry. Okay, so here's another report from Popo. Whoa. What is this? Is this the same report? Is that the same fight, Popo? Because that's a little more fair. I mean, obviously that's like a much different report where, like, the garrison actually won. I assume this is the exact same report. But maybe not. Maybe it's not. Actually, it's not, because that was not... I don't think that was an outpost. Anyway, Purple, let me know if that's the same rally or not. Oh, it is the same. It's the same flag. It's the same flag, so it's probably the same rally. Gosu says 2489 and 1960 spending is just way out of the league compared to 1093. There was no chance they can win to begin with. Their strategy skill got them this far. Yeah, I think that's entirely true. Like, I'm not being critical of the way 1093 is fighting. I'm more so just saying that, like, you know, after 3 days of nonstop fighting, like, some players are running out of speed ups and resources, and other people have, like, giant bags left over. And the people who have giant bags left over can just, like, charge in, use all 7 marches, sad face all 7 marches, go back to their city, full heal their hospital, you know, and then pull their marches right back out. And then they can just pull their marches right back out. And they can do that over and over and over again if they're a whale. Whereas if you're like a normal sized player, you're like dancing, you're trying to get good trades, you're trying to get value for the limited resources and speed ups that you have. And I think in a fight like this, where like it looked like 93 had the numbers advantage and they were winning initially. 93 was winning this open field fight initially. They were absolutely winning it initially. And it's really only at this moment here where like the tide started to turn. At this moment here, when the numbers look about even, at this point I was saying to myself, oh, actually, red team's going to win this one, right? And I think a big part of it was that 960 was being more aggressive and they were returning to the battlefield faster. And I think the reason they did that is not because they have more heart or because they have better strategy or because like their shot callers were motivating their players better. Although those things may be true, I think the main reason why they had a better second effort here is because they spent more money and have more resources and speed ups left over, right? And so at this point, I start looking around. I started looking around a little bit, and I'm like, what are all these 1093 marches doing, like up here? Like, why aren't they in the ball? Why are they like what? I was just like, what is this fight right here, right? What is this fight? Now, I can sort of understand why this player Mo Patron is fighting here, because Mo Patron's city is like right here, right? So like, okay, fine, your city is right here. I get it. Like, pull your marches out, attack into them, and come back. But like, even Mo Patron should never be retreating here. He should never be retreating. His city is right here. He should be throwing his marches into the 960 GT marches that are coming to the front. Mo Patron is actually in like an amazing position to just throw his marches at the enemy, sad face all his marches, heal, and come right back out. He's actually got a great teleport spot. Now these other two dudes here, look, I mean, I'm not like calling these guys out because it's fun. I'm just calling them out to like make a point. This guy Andre 55 and this other player Law SK, who were like spending a lot of time fighting over here instead of fighting in the main ball. They could have fought in the main ball. They chose to fight over here instead. Andre's city is a really long way away. Really, really long way away. I think you'll see it at the end of this video, because I went and looked around for his city, and I went and looked around for Law HSK's city as well, because I just think you're better off being in the main ball. Like, I don't know why they're fighting up here when your main ball is getting absolutely shredded, like absolutely stone shredded. And I think the reason why they're fighting here is because they're probably low on speed ups and they're probably low on resources. And they feel like getting a good trade is sort of the best way to get value for what they have left over. And I think that's like a very like natural way of thinking. I think that's a relatively logical way of thinking, but I also think it's the wrong way of thinking. I think unless you have like a very like good reason to not be fighting in the ball, you should be fighting in the friggin' ball. Like, help your friggin' teammates, stand next to your teammates, fight where the key action is happening, because when your ball collapses, it's like it's a real bad deal. It's a real bad deal. Gozu says, my prediction is 1093 loses this KvK, but will win Osiris League. Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, it's very likely that 960 and 1093 will fight an hour-long Ark of Osiris match where they all have the exact same, gear and everything else, and that will be that skill game, that quote-unquote skill game that that, you know, is the other side of this coin, is the other side of the RLK coin, where it's partly skill based, but it's also partly power and spending based. Oh, it says this fight made so many people buy more RAM. It's crazy. Yeah, my PC held up pretty good here. The AMD processor on my PC did hold up pretty good, I have to say. But I mean, as you can see, like, as that fight was happening, you know, everything else from 1093 was burning, right? So they lost the open field fight, and all of their other flags continued to burn. So I do think this was like a really tough moment for 1093. I think this was likely a low moment. You know, when you consider the fact that 1093, as far as I know, has won... Well, I think they lost to 365, did they not? I believe that 1093 lost to like 365 and 1818 in a KvK. So here, like, here's Andre and Lost HSK cities, right? Super far from the front lines, like really far from the front line, and yet they did not join this ball. So I thought that was definitely suboptimal from a kingdom that is sort of noted for their efficiency. I do think you're going to see something very interesting here, though. I think the final few minutes of this video, we've got about 7 minutes to go here. I think this final 7 minutes is like really interesting, right? Because, okay, 960 did win that fight. Like, 960 clearly won that fight, but they have not accomplished any actual objective at this spot. Like, their flag, I believe, is still burning, although they're about to extinguish it very soon. They might have already, yeah, they did. They already extinguished it. So they're defending their flag at the moment, but they're not burning 1093's flag. And so at this moment, 960 is saying to themselves, okay, we won the open field fight. What can we do with that? What are we going to accomplish off the back end of this open field victory? So they launched the rally. They launched the Nevsky Justinian rally. And they get ready to swarm this flag right here. You can see red line right here at the front. Red line's getting ready to swarm. TC's got a couple of marches here. And 960 is going to swarm this Gorgo Hera garrison. And, you know, this rally gets... The rally dies immediately. The rally dies absolutely friggin' immediately. And, you know, it looks like the garrison's going down, man. Like, the garrison goes down so fast. You know, they're swarming this thing pretty hard, man. They're like full swarming this. You know, they are full swarming this flag. They do have open field control at the moment, but, you know, the interesting wrinkle about swarming is that essentially 10 of your strongest marches are A, being distracted, and B, being dropped to 0. And if you do that enough times, if you have enough rounds of your best 10 marches swarming a flag, eventually the enemy is able to actually push back and, you know, start to make a bit of a comeback here in the open field. And, you know, as this full swarm continues, you can see the white numbers on this Gorgo. The white numbers are pretty high, and then the white numbers basically stay the same throughout the fight, to the point where, like, you kind of realize that they are in fact full swarming this flag. And you know, just gradually what's happening now is that, you know, the blue team, 1093, is just they're gradually getting closer to this flag. It's taking time, but you see that they're inching closer and closer and closer. And, you know, 89 GT's control of the field is getting smaller and smaller as time goes on. And what is ultimately going to happen is this flag is going to stay up. This flag will not burn. This swarm will fail. I would imagine this is going to be a very good trade for this Gorgo. I would also imagine that at some point during this entire swarm, the garrison did get swapped at least once, potentially multiple. There it is. There's the Hera getting swapped in. And 93 does keep this flag up. And I think the really interesting thing is what happens after they keep this flag up. Almost says, you know what is making 93 lose is 60 GT is faster at rotating, and they can't field on 89 GT flags because their members so low power that any misclick on city means they're out of KvK. Yeah, I mean, in dot mode these days, it's very easy to misclick on a city. Very, very easy. So it's kind of amazing that that has become as big of a factor as it is. Because I don't think I've been hurt by that yet. I have to say, I don't think I've been hurt by one of my teammates being a bozo and swarming the city while I'm around and me taking some of that AOE. You can't see it on my screen, but 188 is building a flag right now. I was trying to show the flag, but 188 is building a flag there, and all of a sudden, you know, 93 is starting to accomplish some objectives. Their flag was defended. Their ally is building a flag, and look at how quickly things can change in the open field. I'm gonna look around real quick, but I'm gonna get back to that fight very quickly. I will get back to the 960 1093 front very, very quickly here. I mean, look at how quickly things change here. 960 won a long open field fight. They then tried to parlay that into burning a flag. They failed. They failed on it. And now 1093 is pouring in towards this 960 flag. And spoiler alert, 1093 has a rally that is anchored and is about to be released. One of their cities very close to the front line has an anchored archer rally, and here it comes right now. Amy x Dolomite sending their archer rally at this flag. Dolomite is somebody that we played against long ago. I think we played against Dolomite in the original KvK 3, I think. His kingdom beat the crap out of ours, and he was a very memorable player and leader of that kingdom. And this was a nice attack. This was a very nice attack by 1093 right here. They swung the field, they got to this flag, they released the rally, they swarmed it down, and they got the burn that 960 was unable to get, right? So, like, who actually won this fight? Like, who actually won this fight? Because this was an 18-minute video that I showed you guys, and for about 15 of the 18 minutes, 1960 was winning. But when it was all said and done, it was actually 1093 that accomplished the objective. And I just thought this was a very interesting moment where it was a huge morale blow for 1093 to lose this open field fight. You know, it was like a symbolic, it was a very symbolic moment for 960, where like it wasn't their entire ball, but they still won the open field fight. But then 1093 really did a deft job of turning this around and accomplishing an actual objective. And I think they from a morale perspective, they likely balanced out this moment by just, getting in there at the end and stealing a burn. And so I think this was a pretty good example of just how well 1093 has been playing in this KvK. But as you can see, as of 2 UTC, the field is in 89 GT's hand, and they're just kind of chilling out around this this flag here. They're probably thinking about a rally on this thing. Popo says 2 people swarmed Boom Boom 3 and they lost 2 million troops. Yeah. I hope that Lilith does make some changes. On like a very basic level, right? Like every time you try to attack an ally's march, or like a march from an allied kingdoms, like every time you try to attack their march, a warning pops up. Instead of that, why not have a warning when you're about to attack an enemy city? Like, why not have a warning that says, "Are you sure you want to attack this city?" I don't think anyone would be against a pop-up like that. But, I said this was going to be a short stream. It ended up going about 2 hours. I do appreciate everybody hanging out. I am going to wrap the stream here in a moment. But let me see if I can redirect this thing to anybody. Let's see who is streaming right now and who I can... Oh, I can... Oh, Plato's live. Okay, Plato is live. So I'm going to redirect you guys to Plato's stream. He's doing a really good job of casting this this war. I've really enjoyed Plato's stream. He's giving a very good analysis of everything and good camera work, and he's also like a good charismatic broadcaster. And Plato has helped me out a lot. He really did me a huge favor getting me hooked up with the Osiris League casting. So I'm going to send you guys over to Plato. Let him know it's a Brian raid. And until next time, I will see you all on the flip side.